Welcome to The Best of Intentions, a podcast from Intention Films and Media, hosted by writer, director, former film commissioner, and novelist Debra Markowitz. So join us as we talk about all things creative.
Hi, thank you for joining me on this pre-recorded interview that I am doing with Millie Filippone. We are going to be on set next week, so I'm excited that Maria would do this tonight, and we will go on at our regularly scheduled time, which is what you're now seeing. So thank you for watching The Best of Intentions. We come here every Monday at 1 Eastern Standard Time. And the thing that's the most fun for me is that basically I just get to talk to people I want to talk to, and you get to watch. So you're basically eavesdropping on our conversations. And,
Sure.
and that's a cool thing. But anyway, Maria, I'm so glad you could join us today.
Thank you, Debra, for having me. I really appreciate it very much.
You're quite welcome. I know when I first heard of you, you contacted me several years ago, before you made your first film. And you said to me, I want to make a film any way I can shadow you on a set. I think that's one of the first.
Maybe a long time ago, I might have, yes.
A long time ago. Yeah,
Yes.
a long time ago. And whatever it was, I think we had a closed set. And then next thing I know, you're making films. Well, so, you know, it's testament to the fact that when you want to do something, you're going to find a way to do it, which is what
Yes.
you did.
Yes.
So tell me how you came about making your very first film.
Well, I became unemployed. It's always a good thing. It was actually, my journey starts post the 2008, 9, 10 Wall Street crash or of America or the world, et cetera, et cetera. And I thought, well, maybe I could do something different. And I have to say that I thought, well, I used to dabble in a little bit of writing, a little bit of modeling. And I thought, well, maybe this is the time. And it was a very strange thing that it was so easy for me. Oh, let me just take a class. Oh, I'm driving by. Oh, look at that little theater. I never thought of it. I went in. They have brochures. Oh, they have classes. And I thought the most important thing is to educate yourself and to see if it's something that you're capable of doing, where you think you're going to start off, you don't actually end up, right? And maybe we had this conversation one time before, but in front of the camera is where I would have liked to be many, many years ago, but it's not where I feel most comfortable. So everything just kind of came in order. And I thought, okay, after a couple years of taking various classes, I did do my first film. It's somewhere on YouTube or something, but it was the most important thing was to just do it. And you know how when people are starting to learn how to write and do things and they read it over and over and over again, you can't get past set page 2 or 3 or 4. I just said, just go do it. It doesn't matter if it's good. Nothing matters now. You have to understand, take the camera in your hand, learn a couple of things. And I just started to do it that way. And after 3 or 4 small little things that I did, I started to get a lot more serious and understanding that, oh, there's a venue for these things that you want to do. And I spoke at a couple of college classes about just encouraging people to just get out and do it, because I think that's what most people need to do. Just take the step, and it does not matter if it's great, good. You can always do it over again. You can re-educate yourself, continue to develop some type of craft and understand as much as you can and continue to learn, because we're always learning, right? So it was serendipity. It was meant to be.
Yeah, I mean, when we were going to do my very first film, I'd already been casting and producing for other people. And the reason why I did The Last Taxi Driver, my first film, was because I wanted to know what made directors crazy. There's a level of I'm chill on set, why people upset, and then I did Last Taxi Driver, and I completely understand.
Yeah.
When you're filming and you're outside and your location gets snowed in 3 different times because it's blizzard after blizzard, and it's mostly outside.
Yes.
And then everything that could go wrong, 6 different weather patterns in 3 days. How's that for continuity? To our makeup person getting food poisoning, our effects person, because we had zombies, so we needed her, to one of our zombies getting mugged at gunpoint in the city before he came to
Oh
set,
my
to
goodness.
everything that could go wrong. And I remember everybody was in a little building and catering and hoping. And I walked out in the snow and I looked up to the sky and I went, if you want me to do this, you've got to give me a way to make this happen because I have no idea how this is going to happen.
Hmm.
And when we talked about getting to the point of doing that, it's like, well, do we do this for no money and just get all unknowns and just do it? And if it sucks, nobody will ever see it. Or do I try and pull in some of my friends who are actors, named actors, and it took us a while until we decided, okay, so let's go. I called up Bobby Clahessy from Blue Bloods because I knew him, and Deb Twist, who I know you worked with
Yes.
from Kick-Ass, and Emily Jackson from Incarnate, and she's done a lot of TV since then. I'm like, well, if we're going to do this, then it needs to be good. Because now we're going to raise, I think at the time it was 12,000, which will be twice that now. But if we're going to raise the money, we got to do something good here. And
Right.
because of being film commissioner, because of running the Long Island International Film Expo, that if this sucks, I'm going to get judged harder than anyone else. So luckily, I had a great VP.
And actually, you had the festival for so many years too, right? So that was actively going on. I
The
get it.
person who didn't get accepted would go, ha ha ha, and I knew that. But I had a great editor and a great DP and a great sound guy and a production designer, and it came out. It wasn't the horror film I thought it was going to be. It came out to be a horror comedy, and it actually did very well.
It's
It
fun.
got accepted
It
for
was
college
fun.
the monthly screenings, which is Academy Award qualifying. But the thing is, all the stages we went through to figure out, well, if it sucks, it sucks. We'll bury it, and nobody will ever see it. And I've done that with at least two films that I just said, no, nobody will have, these will not see the light of day. And they
Yes.
what's about learning it? But you're right, you have to just take that step. Well, what was your
Yes.
first film?
My first film was done about 10 years ago. It was called 917. I changed it to My Boyfriend. And it was really just an experiment to keep on going and going and then trying to edit it myself. Had no experience in that. And, I'm not 20 years old or a whiz kid where they just know. So it was hard. But I just had the tenacity to keep on doing it. And most important, it was in the end, Deb, and I think maybe we've spoken about this before, but storytelling is really important. You want to get a story out. And so sometimes it may not come out the way you want it, but maybe a story needs to be told. And that was just in the forefront for me. Just tell the story, whether it's 2 hours, whether it's 40 minutes, 20 minutes, 10 minutes. You have a story, start learning to find your voice in that arena and don't feel bad about that. So that's where I felt it kept on pulling me to go do it. Tell the story.
I mean, I'm a storyteller also. I've written books, obviously movies, but I think when you have a story to tell, however it comes out, whether you're doing a play,
Yes.
film, writing, music, anything that you have to tell, you've got to get it out there because it's to me, it's all about the story. And the only reason that I direct is because I want to make sure the story's told the way it should be told. I
Hmm.
have no problem. I've written for other people. I will have no problem at some point selling scripts and whatnot. My own stuff. I've had people do my own stuff. But some things are too important to me that I
Hmm.
want to make sure it's told the way it is. It
Hmm.
really, really depends. But to me, stories are everything. Now, I've noticed, I did not see your earlier films, but I noticed a lot of your films deal with spirituality. And I thought that was
They
very
do.
interesting because I feel, like some of my most important films, Waiting Room, Leaving, I'm sure there's a couple of others, but they deal with that. So tell me where that comes from.
Um, I've always had this, I've been raised that way. My mother used to take me to fortune tellers when I was 9. Like, so she says, well, you can ask a question now. And I'm like, am I going to die? Like it was like at a 9-year-old kid. I was like, so, it's just really ridiculous. But I just developed that, and then I did move to California when, and that does it right there. I mean, that's a dead giveaway. When I was almost 16 years old, and I was there for a good 7 years, and it's connection. It was just spiritual people. I uh, connected with a lot of older people in my life. I was always the youngest one, and people were always 10 or 15 years older than me. So, learning from people who I dated at one time, and just it was part of the being in California as well as being myself, developing. It was just a very natural thing for me, and I still feel that's just me. Connections are important to me. They have a reason, a rhyme and reason, and a season sometimes. So,
And that was the title of your movie. I took Graveyard Medium. I'm like, oh God, this sounds like something I would do. But my movie Leaving, which was my second film, came out of a dream. And in the dream, I'll never forget it. I was still the film commissioner at the time. And I woke up at like 3 a.m, crying my eyes out. I'm like, what was that? And I started to recall the dream as I'm laying there. And I'm like, oh God, in my dream, I died. And I was
yes,
walking with John out of my building where I was working at the time, and we're holding hands and my car's there and he's alive, but I'm not. And I'm like, oh my God, you kept the car. You kept it. And we had this whole conversation. And I mean, I changed it into a movie and I added a psychotherapist and I added, some stuff to move the story along, but I can still feel it,
yes.
and it was
Do
just
you dream vividly? Because I
very,
do.
yeah. Yeah.
I
It's not every dream, but generally the dreams that are very real will happen and I know this is going to sound crazy, but there have just been probably two people, maybe three people. I know you ever have
what is it? I'm sorry.
dream walking.
I
I've had
haven't.
those dreams I
No.
can walk into and people who have walked into my dreams, but it has to
Oh
be something
no. No, I've never heard
very
of that.
close. It doesn't happen a lot, um, but it has happened, and there's. I mean, it's kind of wild. I wish it happened more. Maybe it happened 10 times in my entire life. Um, but for example, one person I had been very close with at one time, um, I would get messages from him and he would tell me something. And then in real life, I would call the person and go, does this mean anything to you? And they'd be like, yeah. And it's like they were telling me something in
Mm,
my dream to let me know this was real. And then I tell the person, be like, yeah, how did you know about that? I'm like, because you told me, and
mm.
so I love that side of it,
That
but I have no control over it.
I know.
I don't know when it's going to
And
happen.
it comes whenever it comes,
Yeah,
right? It's
and
not.
I wish that I could control that, but I love that spirituality. I love that connection where there's something somewhere else, and maybe you can't define it and you can't control it, but it's there.
Hmm.
And I mean, there's so much. I could take days going over all this, but I love it.
Often deja vu also, and how many times I've been here before. This has happened to me, and it's so real that you say, how could it have happened? It's just happening now, but you feel like whether you had seen it before, whether you had felt it before. So I understand that very well.
Or the person that you meet, and it's like, oh, and you don't know the person, but you both have this instant connection. Whether
Yes,
it's a friendship or a lover, you just know that you have that
yes.
connection. I mean, I've had this story with John when I met John. I was going through a divorce already for years. It's nothing that had been fresh, and dating 3 or 4 people very lightly, just going out to eat. What do I do? They're all nice. I don't know. And I get this email from a site I was no longer on. I had been on this dating site. I'd been off about a month. And I get this email from this guy who saw my profile, which wasn't up. And I got the email anyway, even though I was no longer connected to the site. And it was John. And I'm like,
Hmm.
I meet him. I wasn't thinking anything about it.
Sure.
But there was this connection where we went out and I just wanted to take his hand. And I didn't know him. I'm like, I can't do that. I don't know this guy. But part of me just, that would have felt
Felt
okay.
natural.
Yeah. And then I remember sitting there having dinner, and he takes his glasses off. And you ever see the movie Phenomenon with John Travolta?
No,
Okay, it
no.
was this thing where he gets shocked in his third eye, and that's what I felt like.
Uh,
Um, I, I think I was speechless for a minute. I'm like, I don't know what this is, but we were just connected. We have not been apart since then, and this is 20 years ago. Um, so I mean, as you know, I could go on and on with that, but the spiritual thing has always been very of interest to me.
mhm.
Not everything I write is that. I do horror, I do romance, I do all
Sure.
kinds of stuff. But the two movies, which is Leaving and The Waiting Room, not Waitlist, but The Waiting Room, which was a
I love the waiting room, by the way.
thank you. That was a to our challenge.
Yeah,
And
it's wonderful.
I just looked at the actors and I came up with the story in 2 hours because didn't have a lot of time to write it. And those are the two that people will come up to me and go, I can't get that movie out of my mind. And somebody, my friend's husband said, I had sent him a copy. He goes, I watch that all the time because I always wonder what would happen if something happened to Francine or something happened to me. And
Sure.
so to do that kind of thing that has an impact on people is like everything. It doesn't happen every time. You don't know when it's going to happen. You do what you're compelled to write, the
Yes.
stories that come to you. But when that happens, it's like, all right, there's other stuff out there.
And when it resonates to somebody so profoundly, that's it for me. I love that. I'll give you an example. For Every Good Piece was about a mother, and I actually played that part with Tom Ciori as parents, as a son who turned turned when he went to college. You think that they'll come home successful. No, something didn't happen that way. And it was actually a fear that I had when my younger son was going out to school. And I thought, oh God, he'll never make it, that kind of thing. Right. And I would feel those things. I said, well, incorporate that into some kind of film. And I used his bobblehead. I mean, it was it was funny. But after having it shown someplace, somebody came, oh, there's places to go and speak to people about that. And it was just so funny. I'm like, well, no, this is just a story. It really didn't happen. But no. And I would explain to them, oh, no, but there's places, I understand. But it must have hit home. And that's just what you want,
Yeah.
At the end, that's what, for me anyway. It just felt so profoundly real to them, and it connected, and that was important.
I mean, the thing that I've come to realize is because I do so many different genres, not everything is going to appeal to everybody.
Right,
It's
right.
people who need to see that film, that's who the film is for.
Correct.
And I've learned to be happy with that. Generally that there's a good response, but there was Leaving. I'll never forget. I think we were screening at Atlantic City Cinefest, and a long time ago, and somebody came up to me and go, I just lost my mother. This is what, and he just was almost crying. And I'm like, that's why we do this. I don't
Mhm.
know why I'm doing it other than I just feel compelled to do it. But people who need to see it, it makes it worth it. It could, it's more than one person, but I mean, if it's one person or 10 people, you're doing it for that person because you're going to make a change in their life. You're
Yes.
going to answer something for them. You're going to give them comfort. You're going to let them know they're not alone. Whatever reason it is, that's the person, that has to see it.
Yes.
Um,
And 10 out of 10 times you'll never know either, because people other unless they come and tell you, or somebody writes you, or reaches out to you in some way. But for the most part, you don't know. But in the background, when something resonates, perhaps. And you don't have to know to who. You just have to know it's out there. You did your job. Let it do its thing. So I understand.
yeah, it sounds like you do. It sounds like you write similar to I do in the way that I'm often playing all the characters as I'm writing. If I'm reading it back, I'm playing all the different voices. I have my props like writing a Christmas movie for Michael Fidelli. Michael had given me this about 10 years ago when we
Oh
started writing
gosh.
a Christmas thing together. And you can tell now I'm getting ready to write, finish off Yuletide, and I got all the little Christmas things he gave me, and I put
Oh,
on
that's
Christmas.
great.
Yeah, and whatever it takes, if it's depressing movie or depressing book, I'm sitting and I'm crying. I'm talking to the cat, and if I can make myself feel that, I always know if I feel it, my audience is going to feel it. It's like this
Mhm.
pipeline sort of. If you don't feel it, people might enjoy it, but if you really feel it, somebody else is going to too. And I think
Yes.
that's all the difference in between an important piece of work. It might be longer than somebody thinks it needs to be. It might be um, totally told a different way than somebody needs it to be. But the person who needs to feel it, the feeling is going to come through. You know.
And speaking about feeling, I have Portrait of a Still Life, and being all of those characters, I got so connected, and it was about a 2 year process before from my beginning to end for me on this one when I wrote it several years ago. I would come home to a lover to go back to be the character and just drafting and doing certain things. And I just lived in it, and it was a piece of me, all of them. And then that was the time, and it was the time you have to say, that's it. I'm disconnected. And then so many years later, to have other people portray or to be them, and you see other things coming into light. You see it maybe differently than what your initial intention was. But it's kind of nice to see all these paths or years that have come through and how it came to fruition down the road somewhere, right? It didn't happen maybe at the time when you maybe had thought it might have, but um, everything within its time, right?
Yeah, to me, there's almost no better high in this world than writing something and then seeing these actors do exactly how you saw it would happen.
Mm.
Not that every film is that way. A lot of times, especially on a feature, where actor will go, "Hey, I don't think my character would do this. Can I try this?" And I'm like, "Well, let's see. Let's see if
Yeah,
it works." And sometimes they're absolutely spot on, and sometimes I'm like, "Nope, go back to the original way." But
right.
especially things like Leaving, and probably a couple of other of my films, but Leaving, I remember first of all watching and going, "I saw this before it happened." And now they're stepping into it and giving it life. And I'm like, yes, yes, and that one probably really still touches me more than almost anything else. And in the waiting room, and the waiting
Yes.
room,
Yes.
because it's funny and yet it's kind of touches you. It's like, and for people who haven't seen it, I think it's going to be on our YouTube channel soon because it's off the festival circuit, but
Sure.
and it has been for a while. But the thing is, it's funny in the way that this woman's waiting in heaven or purgatory for her husband. She's died suddenly, and her husband shows up, but then you realize when he walks in, he's holding the hand of his new wife,
Hmm.
and and he has to explain to her who this is. But the thing is, she died 10 years before. He's got
Hmm.
married, he's had kids, and it's a
Yes.
whole conversation between all of these people trying to reconcile who they are to each other, and can they all just love each other and let each other love the other one. And
Right.
it was fun doing, and it was sad, and it was awesome, and it was the first time I worked with Kieran Sheehan, and he was one of Broadway's Phantom of the Operas, and he's a
Yes.
crier. He's a real Irish crier. And
Okay.
the one thing he said to me, the scene before the last, he said to me, "Can we do this scene first? Because we don't do this scene first, I'm gonna be crying my eyes out." He said, "I'm gonna be a mess. So can we do this scene now and then go
Yes.
back to that?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's fine." And he
Yes.
will. I can make him cry like that's beautiful. And I'll
Yes.
torture him because I'll just say something. But he is that sentimental. So
Yes.
that's fun.
I
And
get
tears
it.
and snot and everything all over the place. He's such a great crier. So if you ever need a crier,
I Michael's a crier. I mean, he's a crier, and I tell them you're allowed one good cry and three well-ups. That's it. Pick your spots, okay? That's it. Because things come naturally to him. Who was the main actress in Waiting List? I know her name. What's her first
it
name?
was Mr. Waiting Room, two different
Wait,
movies.
Waiting Room. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Waiting Room was Jennifer Giles
Jennifer.
and
Well,
Heather.
Jennifer was so feisty though. She was like waiting, like you could feel the intensity of her waiting in that specific film. And then, starting, and then this thing happened. And then she was so feisty about it and so angry about it. And how could it be? I've been waiting and waiting. And that part, she was just so terrific, and I loved her in that. She
She's
just,
amazing, Jennifer.
yes,
She's awesome. Yeah,
yes.
she brought such, again, it's a sadness, but there's also, she's
Humor. There was humor in it. It had all aspects into it.
one of my favorites. I think they mostly all are, but that one really stood out. I don't know. I just loved it. There were some things that were different on the set. I think, John, you weren't retired yet, I don't think, but I think John was our AD on that. I'm not sure, but John had been on Broadway many years ago building sets and running crews that built some pretty big sets, like Nickelodeon sets and whatever. And
Yes.
then he went to teach because the economy was crashing in 2008, like you were saying
Hmm.
before with Wall Street, and so he decided, well, I can teach, and he's a great teacher. But when I met him, I would not date anyone from the industry, so I
Oh,
dragged him back in. And the first few films he was on, but I think that's when he started getting more and more involved,
yes.
on the filmmaking end of it. But I mean, the journey has been. Do you sit back sometimes and just go, "Wow, like I get to do this, and how
Yes.
lucky am I?" You know.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And 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 say on a personal level, Deb, I'm putting myself in positions where I didn't think that I would be, or when you're creating an image, where is the piece for you? It's not only looking outward, it's feeling inward for me. And so sometimes where we just ran somewhere to get some quick footage for say moments, and I remember, oh, let me get over here and let me just try to do it. And I was actually filming at the time, and you know I just remember that it's a moment. And I believe like life is just full of special moments. It's not this everyday kind of thing. We live through moments. So now we've created images for ourselves to live through moments, or words that create some kind of evoke some kind of response. So I think at the end of, collectively overlooking your life, and you think of things, you say, oh, I really jumped into some places that I just really am so lucky to have felt as a person in a personal level, as well as sharing with other people. So that's why I do it. I love that part of it. It's my favorite. As it is pre-production, when I'm, and when we're rehearsing, that's where we're creating certain things. That's where we can hone it a little bit. I love those moments. And things happen there than perhaps on set because you don't have much time. So I just feel fortunate to have felt that moment at that time. So um, that's what it's about, you know?
Called the most glorious kind of torture because it's not easy.
Yes.
It is not easy. People think, oh, you make a movie, you go to film festival, your life is great, and you don't have anything to worry about. They don't see all the imposter syndrome. Do I really know what I'm doing? What if this sucks? Oh my God, this doesn't look good. This didn't come out the way I wanted to. I mean, it
Right.
goes on and on and on. And I went through, I don't know, probably a couple of years ago. Means nothing to me now. It could be 5 minutes ago and 10 years ago, but
Right.
um, where there's a few people I go to when I write something or make a new script or I make a movie, and there's a few people I trust who are not only way better at this than I am, but they will be kindly honest. So they'll give me honest feedback, but it won't be like what kind of crap was that? Because that's not
Right.
helpful.
Right.
Um,
And
and
you need that you need somebody to be able to, again, it could be an opinion and they could be wrong. However, to consider it and to
yes,
listen to somebody and say, well, perhaps they picked up on something that I didn't quite see, hear, feel, or something like that. So it's important to have those people in your life and say, okay, they don't mean any harm. They just see it a different way, but perhaps that perspective could be correct. It
right.
could be the way it goes. So I respect that.
Yeah. And if you show it to three different people and they all say the same thing, then you really need to look at it.
Yes.
Yeah, but I went through this crisis of confidence once because this person is definitely technically a better writer than I am. I never studied; it just comes from my heart, and luckily, I've been lucky. But and I just sat there and I'm like, why am I even writing? Because I'm never going to be as good as this person. I'm never, why do I even bother doing this? And probably it was a few months until I realized because they could never write with my heart. Because my
Mm,
heart is going to tell the story, and they don't have the ability to tell this kind of story because that's not how they see the world. They see it from
correct.
their perspective, and they can do an absolutely stellar piece of work, but they can't do this,
Correct.
and I
Yes.
really had to reconcile that with myself and also know when you get this feedback, I will always consider it. And sometimes they're right for this, and sometimes I realize that, well, this would be right if it was their film, but it's not right for my film. It's not right for the story. And it's, oh my God, the things we go through, the juggling in our brains
Yes.
about
Yes.
trying to do the right thing. But I find if there's something I really, really, really disagree with, if I don't listen to myself, I always regret it.
Hmm.
It's just something that, I mean, just came up with waitlist. Most of the reviews have been, it's called Waitlist, a love story. Most reviews have been very good. Um,
Yes. I saw it. It was not, it was fun. It was nice. I came to the opening at the Belmore. Um, and I, if you recall, I said it kind of was, not Grey's Anatomy, the 90s show. It kind of had that feeling of, I can't remember. I hate this. This happens a lot. Uh, um, 30 something. Do you remember I made a comment? It had a little bit of a feeling for me,
uh,
of 30 something, the way the scenes were done, the way it felt, the way, the different characters were in it. And that's how I perceived it. I felt it was a little bit of 30 something. I'm dating myself.
Yes, in my mind, I was saying things like, oh, boy, I'm going to forget, not just John Hughes, but there's another Savage, somebody Savage, not Savage. There were some old movies, though, from the 90s, which I wanted something fun and bouncy, and that's where the hallway scene came from. And that's why
Yes.
the song was really important to me. Rory Kelly, who is an artist from Suffolk County, a musician from Suffolk County, her music is a backdrop of almost the entire film. And in my mind, that almost makes the film,
It
you
was
know,
great music. You had really, really good music.
incredible, but the one thing that stuck out to me, as I said, there's two scenes I should have cut. I don't think the kind of movie that, as far as I'm concerned, it's a guilty pleasure. And I don't think it hurts the movie, but to make it a tighter film, I could have taken out two scenes. I took
Hmm.
out a lot of scenes I didn't want to take out, but I said this has to be shorter,
Sure.
and that's the one thing I probably would have removed those two scenes, but it's too late now. But a lot of people, they're like, don't touch anything. Don't touch anything. They're very happy with it. Um,
Right.
and what I'm going to do is take some of the missing scenes that I took out and put them on my YouTube channel eventually, because there's a great scene with my dog. There's a great scene with Tracy. We didn't know
We
if it was
love
going to work.
dogs.
We didn't know if it was going to work, but she hit her mark. I think we did it two or three times. She hit her mark every freaking
Oh,
time.
that's great.
I know. I was like, did she really just do that? Let's do it again. And Beth had like dog treats behind her, so she was glued to Beck. And
Yes.
between Krabs and Beck petting her, she was just like in love. She wasn't moving until John whistled from the bedroom. She got up, ran right in the bedroom when she was supposed to, and then we would have taken out his whistle. So you just think she was going to do something else. But
Right.
such a great scene, but it really didn't add to the story as cool as it was. So
I know.
up on our YouTube channel at some point.
It's because you're in the middle of something. You say, "Oh, wouldn't this be great? Let's do this," and you get so excited about it. And then, I don't think it works. It really doesn't further story. That kind of thing. But it felt so good to have make the
Yeah.
moment, right? You felt like you wanted to do it. So I get that. Let me ask you something. So, like you had this particular film and the other features. When you're looking at it raw without the audio and composition mixing being put in there, what's your feeling during that time? I mean, sometimes I look at it, oh, I love it. I'm like, oh God, I can't stand it. Oh, I love it. Oh God, I can't stand it. This really isn't. I thought that was better. It's that kind of like constantly weighing and balancing. So, do you feel that way too? I mean, because I assume all of us feel that way, and
Better with it. Um, I've gotten better with it because I really understand it's not done yet, but
Yeah, and I do too, because I always say, wait until the music, wait until the bells and whistles, wait until next voice comes in. It's such a different film. So I get it, but it's still, until it's done, you're kind of looking at almost raw coverage in a way.
my third film, I think it was my third film that I did, By Blood. Um, I just love that movie. I thought it was one of the best scripts I'd written, and it won it like Queen's World. It won. I think it was a tie or a runner-up for best screenplay, and it only played a few film festivals before I pulled it for a personal reason. But when I first saw the first edit, I'm like, this is awful. This is because in my mind, I saw how great it could be. And for
Yes.
whatever reason, I hate it. I edited it and I'm going on and on. And the editor said, just don't worry about it.
Yes.
This we can fix, this we can fix, this we can fix. And it ended up, by the time it was done, it was one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I was just so married to the feeling of having done this. And we're going to put that on my YouTube channel too.
Yes.
Again, it only was, I think, at 3 film festivals before I pulled it, but it should be out there because it's a really, really good movie. And I'm thinking of doing it over and changing it a bit because the story is really good. If you have great actors, it's a really cool showpiece. But after that, let's see, by the time we just got to From the Embers, which is my latest feature, Waitlist is done. It's available to be streamed on Prime Video, and it's going to be on other platforms very soon. But From the Embers, I my regular editor is now going to be my finishing editor. So I went to a new editor for this. Jack Kelly he did a great job, but I was very clear, Jack, I don't know how long this is going to be. I do not want this being 2 hours. I definitely don't want it being over 2 hours. Don't spend a lot of time cleaning everything up until we know
Correct.
what we don't
Right.
need. Where my other editor, if you shot it and he likes it, he's going to spend hours on 5 minutes to make it look great, and then I am cutting it, and he's heartbroken because he knows what he put into it. So with
Yes.
Jack, we were able to cut out like 40 minutes because it was way too long. But I could go in knowing, okay, this is good enough now, and once it's polished, it's going to be really good.
Great.
So I was able to say, you know what, check out, get rid of this part, get rid of this part, get rid of this part. If you see anything you think we don't need, let me know.
Mhm.
And out of everything he said, like 3 of them might be like, maybe. And he said, you want me to take it out and see what it looks like? I'm like, yeah, why don't we do that? Like, you're right.
Yeah. Yes.
It up, looks good. There's only one scene we disagreed on that I insisted on keeping, but I like somebody who can come out and honestly say, I think this would be better, and have the sensitivity to know that you don't need this,
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool working with him that way. And then it went on to Rob Riley, who's now doing the color and tightening things up. And we're reshooting one scene because I just don't like the last scene.
I just want to interject here. The reasoning for that is because you believe probably, and this is how I feel, that scene meant this to me because of this, but another person or people looking at it are not getting perhaps what your intention was, right? Oh, intention's such a great name.
That's my company, Intention.
Yes, I know. It's so great. But unless I explain it like the editor, I would say, well, that's important to me because it establishes something else. It moves on to something else. And and sometimes they could be right. I mean, would it be missed if it was there? I mean, you could be right, but there might be a reason why I feel that something might be important as well too. So I understand that it's a hard decision.
I think that shows growth in the way that I can be willing to not see it look perfect before I see it and not have my heart be broken.
Yes.
So
Okay.
that's really important, and that's growth, and that comes from doing. I think John said I've got like 50 film credits, but just in
Wow.
film because I've been doing it for a long time. But
Wow.
so that feels better. Waitlist, Yeah, I mean, we put stuff at a wait list I really like, but I also understand shorter, tighter. It'll still be tighter, but again, I think it's the kind of thing that people are very compelled by the actors, so they don't mind watching, everything that's happening.
Hmm.
Uh, so we'll see, but I'm trying to cut more out before we film. I'm
Yes.
getting better at that. And when we were filming From the Embers, we'd be even on set, and I go, you know what? Get rid of these paragraphs. Just get rid of them. We don't need them. And that comes from experience.
Yes.
Being able to be open-minded about your project. And I've been wanting to do work with a lot less dialogue, and that's why I don't know if you saw Silent Harmony, but
I
that's
haven't seen that yet. I know, but I haven't seen it
95%
yet.
silent film. That's 95% silent film, and it's a
That's the chess. That's with Linda Collins and
yeah, Linda Collins and
okay,
Travis
so
Millie Michaels and it, Julius, and they're smaller roles just to help move the story along.
right.
Um, but basically, it's these two establishing a relationship, not romantic, but a friendship without saying a word. And she plays a musician who she's been in a very bad car accident. She's broken her arm. She's broken her neck. Her longtime driver, who you get the gist that she was in a relationship with, has gotten killed in the car accident. And
Mhm.
and so she's basically hiding in her summer place. And her assistant, goes by to drop things off, and she hires this handy person because um, nobody's been in the summer house for a while, and things need to be painted and fixed and tightened and whatnot. And you find out during it that he's also had his own physical damage. He used to be a jujitsu champion, and he was, I think, in a hit and run accident. We decided, and I used things from both of them. Travis wasn't an accident, but he had to have two hip surgeries at a relatively young age because of
Oh
a
wow.
little, thing from the family. And he
Uh-huh.
was a jujitsu champion, so we used like all his
Ah,
medals for props, and we kind of did this all over a chess game. He would notice that the assistant said, "Please leave her alone. She keeps to herself," and so he doesn't say anything, but he'll walk by and see that she's moved a chess piece. So he'll walk by and move a chess piece. And it's just, that's kind of the way they start acknowledging, each other.
do you
And
know that's a very hard piece to do
it is very
because to communicate without verbalizing, right? There again, there's a word intentions. You really have to define what's important to say and what's not important to say.
hard.
And it, it's very hard to determine that. But interesting concept. Kind of like that.
It was different. I love doing different things. So that kind of, I spoke to Linda, and Linda is an amazing musician, which I
Yeah.
found out on the set of a prop. So we
Yeah.
ended up using her music. And then
Yes.
this, she wrote a piece for the movie. And so she's, playing it throughout and trying to get her skills back and whatever, because I just felt it needed to center on the aesthetic things that weren't their voices, so that was kind of really cool. Um, so I've really been getting into writing with a lot less dialogue. Like the scene where we're shooting for From the Embers. I told Julia and Travis, I said, all the dialogue you have there, I don't want to hear any of it. And they're like, okay. I said, so don't memorize the lines. This is what's going to happen. Da 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 da. And then we end up here. They're like, we're there.
Yeah.
Because I think it would be more powerful without the dialogue. And John even said, you should have really. I said, maybe we'll cut it out. He goes, they shouldn't actually say anything. And I said, I think that'll be more powerful. Because
Hmm.
John, when I write for people, um, like I rewrote Sfortunato for Michael, I rewrote The Better Man for Henry. Because there's always something missing, and I kind of can find that last piece. It's usually the ending of the scene that has to be changed. But when
Hmm.
we're on set, John sees what it should be. So when I'm
Hmm.
writing it, I can get it for somebody else. But on set, like I don't want to give away the ending of for Waitlist, a lover story. But that last thing that happens at the very end, that came from John. And I'm like, this is something. He goes, how about you just do this? I'm like, ah, perfect. And then the same thing with From the Embers. I just am not happy with the ending scene. It's a really deep, gritty movie, and it was just too corny and it's something about it I didn't like. And John said, well, what if? I came up with, what if we do this one thing? And that helped, but I'm like, it's still not there. And John said, well, what if we take it further and do this? I went, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kudos to John.
Yeah. John is, he's the man behind the camera usually.
Yes.
Well, now he's in front of the camera, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes, but at least a cinematographer and you're connected, so he knows the story so well that probably so he'll feel it, and sometimes you don't get it until you're there at that moment. Well, this might need this, exactly as you said, and it didn't happen months ago. It happened right then and there. Let's give it a try at least, right?
Yeah.
So I get it.
Yeah. I mean, you're a cinematographer, especially if they're an editor, and John can edit, but we don't have time for that. We're doing so much other stuff, but they can often see the thing that you haven't figured out yet. Like you're saying, Mark Ryu is the first DP I worked with. He did my first 3 films. And we also started with him with Couple of Guys, which is a feature we're going to be finishing end of May, but we start actually this coming week. And when we did Leaving, I knew I couldn't necessarily verbalize what I wanted, but I could see what I wanted. And I'll never forget him sitting across from my desk and go, this is what I see. I'm like, that's it. I didn't even have to tell you, and that's exactly what I want. So if he wants to try something, and he'll tell me about it, I just trust his vision so much, that I still have to work it through with my brain, but I don't think I've ever said no to him. I think that whatever he said, like a Couple of Guys, there's a scene that was supposed to take place in the living room, and he came up to me and goes, how about we go to the front step and this happens? And I'm like, different location, doesn't cost me any extra. It'll add some variety we don't have. I'm like, all right, let's do that, So it means having an open mind, but knowing that they understand the project too. And of course, as a director, it's always our decision,
Sure.
but sometimes it's really good to have that collaboration. He's phenomenal. I worked with Sean King, is also phenomenal. Like John's our usual DP, but if he's in a movie, he can't also do that. And John wrote A Brimstone Lullaby, which is the White's version of Brimstone, and it's darker and it's scarier. And because John was in it, we called in Sean, who's phenomenal. And just working with him, he goes, how do you feel about this? Da, 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 da. I'm like, let's go for it. Let's see what it looks like. And it's just so friggin' elevated.
I can't wait to see it because I haven't seen Brimstone, and I'd like to see John in it. I hear he did a great job.
Yeah, A Brimstone Lullaby. I'm not sure. Oh, you didn't see Brimstone? Did you see Brimstone? You didn't see Brimstone? Okay.
No.
I'm trying to get Brimstone still out on the festival trail, and then submit A Brimstone Lullaby to the places that already bring Brimstone, because I don't want to cut Brimstone's life short. I think it's really worthy. So it's kind of keeping in my mind, wait a minute, they got the first one, so I can't submit the second one there too. I want to wait on that.
Yes.
But those have been.
But Embers is the full feature relative to the full story. So
that's not horror. The other two lean more. It's drama, and certainly the first Brimstone is drama with a touch of horror. But Brimstone Lullaby, I'm going to say that's horror. That's blood and screaming and all kinds of crazy stuff. And oh my God, if you need to scream at Julia Weiner, just I don't know how she had a voice left, but really, really, really good. But from the Embers, I'm really excited for that. I don't have any names in that. One of them needs to get famous, so I have a name in this movie. But it's and Michael's in that too. Played Julia's father. But it's rooted in trauma and addiction, and how addiction feeds trauma. And Julia plays a college student who is trying to prove this in her thesis. This is what her paper is on in psychology. And David, who's played by Travis Grant, is one of her subjects. And it's just, oh my God, what these two did. I can't, it's one of those things where I'm sitting there looking at the monitor going, yes, it's a very different role for him than for Waitlist. from how he was with Carter, happy-go-lucky, to this really, really damaged, um, dark person who is just trying to survive. And then here comes this young woman who, yes, she lost her mother very young, but her father has been phenomenal and she excels at everything. And to her, life is wonderful. Life is, you can be anything, and she's going to help this guy, not really understanding that you don't have the same background, you don't have it. And it's,
Right.
oh my God. Well, obviously you'll see it when it's done, but I just sit there and it's the nuanced performances.
You're still filming. You're still filming that, or did you finish it?
We had wrapped, but I want to redo the ending scene.
Okay.
So it's being edited and colored now, but he put a bookmark, at the ending
Where it
scene.
should be. Yeah, I
But,
get it.
yeah, it's, oh my God, I just love this so much. It's ah, I it's because Julia's character is so idealistic that she's not reading the room when she talks to him. So, well, how about that? And he's just looking at it like he doesn't understand it. And let me just give an example of one of the first scenes. She's met him, and she's also a photographer, and she's incorporating her photographs with her paper.
Hmm.
And so she sees him in a coffee shop, and she's like, "Oh, it's a nice looking guy. I'm gonna take some pictures. He looks great on film." And so she tries getting him to one of her subjects, but when she realizes he's reading um, a book on addiction, he's doing his steps, she's like, "Oh, I could interview you too. This would be great." And she finally convinces him to let her do this, because at first he's like, "I'm not interested. Go away. You're too young. Go away." And the first scene where she talks him into letting her go to his apartment, because at first he's like, "Not happening. I don't want you in my apartment." Because he's like, she's a kid. Why is she? He's kind of like, "What are you, crazy? Because what if I was a bad guy? You don't just do this." Because I know you're not a bad guy. It's like, well, most of them would disagree with you, but
Hmm.
okay. So at one point, she's getting ready to take his pictures, and he's wearing this shirt with these flowers on. And she goes, "You have something plain, like something that's just a straight color, no logos, no whatever."
Valid.
He goes, "All right." He picks something out of his laundry basket. "Okay, this is fine." So she's getting her camera ready. He takes his shirt off, and he's really jacked in this scene. Travis lost 20 pounds and just like kind of went down to being incredibly jacked and whatever.
Mm.
And so she's letting the camera, she looks over, and she's like, she doesn't know where to look, not to look at this. And he's just like, "What's the problem?" Because to him, his body has been what he's used to get by. So
Yeah.
to him, it means nothing. But to
Yes.
her, she doesn't know where to look to not look at
Yeah.
him. She's like, "I just look over here," and it's like, whatever.
Yes.
And that interaction between them where she's so incredibly embarrassed, and he's like, he doesn't understand what she's upset about.
Yes.
It's just, oh my God. And I shouldn't be talking about me. This is about you, but it's just those nuanced things. And I'm so used to
Yes.
it. Portrait of
Yes.
still life.
Yes. I mean, I understand it. I get it.
Particular,
I say again, I'm sorry.
any scene that stuck out to you in particular in portrait of still life that you just keep focusing on it because you're so happy with it, or something about it, just struck you?
Um, again, pre-production for me is when I feel so many more things. Otherwise, I had gotten so ill during the filming, and and I'm not used to, you'll never be ready, so you just got to go, okay? But I got sciatica. I got bit in the face by a bee. I got bit here. I had a swelling. Had to go. I mean, it was just comical. So when we're in it, I'm like, like certain times, I'm like, I can't do this. Like I'm like dying. Where am I? I'm being eaten alive by, who gets stung by a bumblebee? It's always a wasp. It doesn't happen this way. It was just crazy.
Oh my God.
So, and then I'm sick now. We did something this week. I said, why do I keep on getting sick every time I'm doing something? So, but, there's just the tone, the feeling, the connection. You see that like sometimes, and you just say, yes. And I know it will be so much better. And because I've seen it so many or I've seen it several times, not so many times, but it doesn't have that much an impact. Initially, when you first see something, how, oh, yes, oh, I'm so glad that worked out. Oh, yes, that kind of thing. So now it's like, okay, see, now I'm looking more for technical things. I'm looking for making it shorter. The whole looking at it now is trying to reduce it. What can we reduce this? Can we cut this? That can we, somewhere in the middle, so it's a very different thought process, but I do know that feeling of, oh yeah, that was just great. When I'll go back to even a Graveyard when Jerry Glennon did the monologue at the end. We were all, it was the host set, we're all sitting back there, and then it was the applause afterwards because it was just so beautiful. And she stopped herself in the middle. She says, it didn't feel right. And I said, okay, let's give it a couple seconds. And she did the whole thing. And it was just a moment again in life. So I understand that feeling. And that's what I live for. It's like a buzz. It's a high. It's a some kind of different stimulus and it's just, when you do that. And then there's other things that if we just had one more take, so you get both sides, right?
Absolutely.
But I'm very pleased for what we do have, and looking forward just to trying to get a little bit further. And actually this weekend we redid the beginning. Um, I do relationship films, and when you don't have A-listers and name people, right, or people might not be prone to stay in it because it's quiet. So I needed to stir it up a little bit just to ignite some kind of emotion with the audience, just a little bit more. So as I tell people, I say, oh yes, if it was Matt McConaughey or somebody else, yeah, you'd be prone to staying. What's going to happen to Matt, right? But we don't have those people, right? And very good actors, but you don't have that where they might stay with a quieter story, and it's just not, how does that happen? I think as an independent filmmaker, we have those things to consider. Like we don't have named people. How do people get connected? Well, we're lucky that we have an independent world, and it's grown so much over the years, and there's such an interest in, again, going back to storytelling. So that's great. But how do you get something pushed out to the next step, right? To a bigger step, a bigger following, or a bigger arena. So that'll always be in the back of my mind. And that's something always hard to think of and to do. You're probably very good at that. I'm just, newbie at that, so it's a little hard. But yeah, there were some really great moments. Debra Twist was wonderful in so many of the her scenes with Michael and Fideli. They were just terrific. And Victoria Ford, they were, they were my three core, and they did not, you know, they didn't fall short. So just trying to get through.
Yeah,
Um,
she was in my first film with Taxi Driver, but she was also in Couple of Guys, the movie that we're doing now. And
okay.
she basically plays the wife, a wife and mother who's gotten divorced, and she finds out when the children are grown, after they've just gotten divorced, that her husband comes out as dead. And it's just everything that she feels, how do I deal with it? Because I really love my husband, and as my whole marriage has been a lie, and
Right.
she's so spectacular in that,
Yes.
so believable. And then there's a scene where Lucas's character John, who's the husband, the rock star that her husband fell in love with, um, where they just have it out, and it's that is such a pivotal scene because he's trying to tell her to stay out. He's never been in a serious relationship, and now he's in love and he's married, and she keeps trying to get in there because she figures she just wants to give them grief because of what happened
Yes.
to her.
Yes.
And he finally says to her, this is all new to me too. He goes, relationship, marriage, and you just keep hoping I fuck up so you can move in,
Yeah.
you know. And she
Good
says,
line.
and she goes, well, I feel like, that I had everything and now I have nothing. And, it's such a great scene.
And it
Such a,
resonates with people because these things happen,
yes,
and they do happen to people, and then they think, like you're saying, has my life been a falsehood? Have I been living authentically? Have I just been coasting for 10, 20 years thinking, oh, this was happening. Oh, I was happy, but she wasn't, or he wasn't for the last 10 years. You know how that goes. So it happens quite a bit in life. And we're telling life stories, so that was somebody on oh gosh, I can't remember the actor, but he says yes, and he says yes, I'm newly divorced. I says I was happily married for 13 and she was happily married for 11. So we had to change.
yeah. All kinds of fun stories that we tell. And I feel so bad we hadn't shown you a trailer. Which one worked? Is it Addiction, John? Is he there?
Excuse me?
Which trailer do we have that works? Is it Addiction or Graveyard Medium?
Graveyard Medium.
Okay, well, let's show
see it.
that. I'm going to talk a couple of minutes before we wrap it up because
All right, thank you.
all been talking. We didn't show it, but so this is Maria's trailer for her movie Graveyard Medium, which is a short film.
Priscilla. That's her name.
Yeah, that's impossible. I mean, how could you even know that?
I didn't, but your wife told me.
We all miss someone.
Oh, no, not again.
Whoa. That never happened to me before. She just jumped into my body, then out.
That was my Haley. Bring her back.
I'm happy that I can connect for people. But you're the one I want to connect with.
I love that kind of stuff. I do
Yeah.
love that kind of stuff. There's something John wrote called Trailer Park Afterlife. And I just love that between the two worlds of people who can talk to the other world and whatever and contact other people. That's just so awesome. So I love that spiritual bent to your work. I have not seen all of it. I saw that. I saw Addiction. And I just love that stuff.
Yeah, I know. I do too. But I could do I need to do a comedy. Comedy is really hard to write. Comedy is really just, unless, I often find myself saying things that are funny, but it doesn't mean that it can be put into something that equates to something. But it would be nice. Something that's a belly laugher, just for fun, just for simple fun, I do have messaging in a lot of things that I do, and that's important too. But God, can we laugh a little?
I bounced back and forth. I did first I did waitlist to Love Your Story because we needed something light.
Lighter. Yes, I know what you mean.
I just wanted to do something fun.
Mhm.
So we did that, and then I went right to From the Embers, which is a really dark and heartbreaking,
Yeah.
crushing, and from that, then we went to Just Sex, which is a cute little comedy, a little message there.
Did you film that yet? Did you film that one yet?
It's actually ready, and I've been too busy to submit it anyway.
Oh,
So
great.
I finally last night just said I need to take an hour and at least submit this to a couple of film festivals. We finished it 2 months ago, and I just haven't had time.
Yeah.
So that's adorable, and I had fun with that. And right now, and Yuletide is going to be it's a Christmas movie. That's got a real story, and it's not just your usual small town girl, finds a guy on a knight on a horse and, his shining army and all the other stuff. It's not that, but it's based in an Italian-American family and a man who comes back to basically close up his parents' affairs when he's lost his last remaining parent. And he's in this town where he was always known as a troublemaker, and he's trying to show that he's kind of turned over a new leaf. But can he really do that? And but it's mostly a feel-good movie, even though,
Right.
there's definitely some, drama.
And Christmas movies are really popular. I didn't realize that in the distribution world, they go Christmas movie #1 type of film that we like to choose, and I'm like, what? It didn't strike me as that, but I guess they people enjoy them. They like them during the holidays. They'll watch them year after year if they connect with them. So it's kind of funny because over the years I say, you should just run out there during Christmas and just go get some, quick shots so you can incorporate them, right? Or establishing scenes, and never did it. But I just feel like I'm like a night stalker or something. Just taking a picture of your yard, Maybe you'll see it as an establishing shot in the movie one day or something like that, but I didn't do it. But it could be fun. And Christmas movies often do have that, what's the moral of the story, and a little bit of a feel good at the end. So,
well, that'll be the light one, and then we'll go into Franklin, which is horror. So yeah, whatever. But
okay, so you're throwing horror in there. That's good.
And somebody approached me to do an action movie, and I'm considering it. And I can't do anything else right now until I get a couple of these off my plate. But
Yes.
The only reason I'm considering doing it is because I haven't done it before. I was like, oh,
Yes.
I could just see a real shoot 'em up, and there's a story to it. But there's lots of blood and people getting shot and all kinds of stuff. Like that would be fun.
It could be a lot of fun, and it gives you an opportunity to approach something a different way, something that you've never done. But it's a fast paced, usually, so it's a very different genre. But if you can do it, go for it.
I always love doing something different, and I think it was a few months where I worked with my dog. I had to direct a 4-year-old who had just turned 4. I had to work with a baby on set, and I worked with an actress with Down syndrome. And it seemed like every movie had a different challenge to it. But
Yes.
I was so happy after I did each one of them because I'm like, you get that feeling that maybe I'm okay at what I do,
Yes,
maybe I know what I'm
yes.
doing. But so it's very scary at the time. But once you get through it, and we always get through it,
Yeah.
one way or another we do. But it's just it gives you that level of confidence. But the imposter syndrome never goes away when you're an artist, not ever.
I know.
It's artist subjective, so you can't ever say this is great because for these people it's great. These people think it sucks.
Yes.
You can't
Yes.
ever just because I think it's great. Well, they think it's great. There's this is just always this stuff. But you know what? In the
And
majority,
also in your case, you produce a lot and you're getting a lot of things out. In my case, if I'm doing this is a feature that one and done for a while, I'd really love to do another short or something, but it may not happen because I can't get to the writing or I'm just exhausted. I work 10-hour days. It's really hard for me. So then I feel so rusty, like because I'm not doing it often enough. And if you're on set or something else, at least you feel you're constantly involved. But if you're not, it does feel a little bit like, I'm an imposter or am I enough and all those types of things. And you question yourself and you say, no, you've created this. You have worked very hard towards this. You are enough. And for whatever talent you have, you're the people that you've chosen to be in the film have, we will make the best of it, the best we could possibly do. And that's how I have to look at it. We're all we have is good intentions. And that's that word again.
one of the most important things is you have to go in it to the right reason. The people who want to make a movie because they think that they're going to get famous, and they're going to be rich, and that's not why you do
It's not
this.
happening.
And it happened. It's such a small percentage of anything that could possibly happen. I'm sure we'd love it to happen, but that's not why we do it. We do
Right.
it because we have to do it, or we want to do it, or there's really just nothing more fulfilling. And even though we do it, people should never get confused with the idea that this is easy, because this is not easy. This is many, many sleepless nights.
Yes.
And because of the confluence of all this work that happened at one time for us, I think we're in the middle of 4 or 5 different features in different stages. And I think it was yesterday that I got up at 3 a.m. and I just worked through until 10 at night, and I got so much done. And I needed to get past, that hump of PR that I needed to do for wait list, or the SAG paperwork I had to do for a couple of guys, and the SAG flip it just was constant. Because for that fun stuff, being on set when things are going well, there's all the stuff behind the scenes, the stuff you're doing before. There's
Yes.
There's everything that comes after,
And essentially also looking at it as a business. You always think that you love the artistic value, but it is a business. You are creating it. You have to create the little business, the funds and the things that need to be done ahead of time. So I don't think some people realize how much that takes. You have to learn it. You have to imply it. It's not easy, and you have to look at it as a business, but also, of course, an artistic outlet, an artistic feeling that you need to get out there. So it's a lot more than some people think.
Since it's a happy debate, it's not easy. Someone who can't do what you hired them to do, and sometimes that person's a friend, and you gotta move on, and that's never easy. But the work matters. Anybody can have a bad day. All of us have a bad day, but if sometimes you can work great with somebody and all of a sudden you don't, and it's like, all right, is that an anomaly, or what? Maybe then they need to do their own stuff. And then we do this, and it's a business. So while it's something that's deeply personal to us that we love,
Yes,
it has to be done right. Because you can't do the job, I have to talk to you. And I have to say, hey, is something personal going on? Or is this, you're just not into this? And that's a thing too, but you got to do all that stuff. And that's any boss, really. That's any.
right.
The work has to be number one. It doesn't mean that you crap on people, because you don't. But the work has to be number one. You have to take it seriously, and so that's the thing. But John just basically said 1 hour and 10 minutes.
Oh,
So I think we have to wrap it up, because we'll be here all night. This is fun. But I would love to thank Maria for joining me today. This was fun.
thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime. I can't wait to see your film. I'm very excited for that. But tell people where they can reach you, your social media, if they want to follow.
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, Maria Sawoch Filippone, Sawoch Filippone. And I don't do Instagram often enough, which I should. I'm sorry I don't. But then I use my regular email if somebody ever wants to reach out and chat, have me look at something or pick my brain on something. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions on mariaflip@optonline.net. And let's keep on making movies.
That's it. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for watching The Best of Intentions. We have pre-recorded this because I'm going to be on set on Monday, but it will go on our regular time, Monday at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and then it will be on our YouTube channel after. But again, Maria, thank you. And
thank you so much. Thank you, John.
Summer.
And good luck on set next week, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Good night. Thanks.